Hello, you've reached the mysticmartias YouTube page. Welcome and blessed be. I'm a professional tarot reader and I'm a member of priesthood for a public Wiccan temple in Hamilton, Ontario called Silver Circle. Today's class is an introduction to the fundamentals of magic. This will be a series of videos explaining how magic works and how you can use it. It will begin with the basic concepts and move on to more specific magical workings. If you enjoy this type of content, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget, you can leave comments in the comment section below. Thank you very much. If we're going to do magic, it is best that we all have the same definition. Oxford Language Dictionary defines magic as the power of apparently influencing the course of events using the mysterious or supernatural force. And by mysterious, they mean something without scientific explanation. Aleister Crowley, a famous occultist from the early 1900s, defined magic as the art and science of directing the will and bringing about a desired result. That is one of the most fundamental parts of magic. You must know your own will. Without the will, without your intention, magic won't work. There are three general magical concepts. There is contagious magic, sympathetic magic, and what I like to call divine intervention, or the power of prayer. All three are fully legitimate forms of magic and can make things happen on their own. However, used together, they can have a profound effect. The idea behind contagious magic is that anything that comes in contact with something else will carry some part of its essence with it, even if it was only for a temporary period of time, and even if it includes only the smallest particle of the object that it touched. Objects act upon each other in an energetic way, imparting some of their essence to each other when they make contact. An example of this could be a person's hair or clothing, something with their handwriting, a footprint that they left behind, even possibly their shadow. Basically, anything that the person had some contact with, whether it be physically or energetically. A lot of people have heard of homeopathy, and that is the idea of contagion. Only a minute amount of material must be present in order for the magic to work. For example, some people will put a gold ring into a solution overnight and give it a stir and then take out the ring, and infusing either possibly the magic of the relationship if it was a wedding ring, or possibly the properties of gold and how that would lead to glory or rulership. Anything that would have an association. You could use a crystal and have the crystal associations and then have it infuse into water. You could drink the water and take that energy into you. In fact, there doesn't even have to be a physical connection. You could leave some water out overnight and have it collect the rays of the moon. Those energetic components are then left in the water, and you can use that water for magical workings on full moons or when you don't have a full moon, or you could just drink the water and take the energy of the moon into you. This is just one example of the power of contagion. Sympathetic magic is different. The idea behind sympathetic magic is that anything that is similar to or might have an association with anything else can be used to produce that effect in the object. The idea of like affects like. And this is why so often we'll talk about associations in Wicca. Herbal magic is a huge example of this. Often there is not a medicinal quality to an herb, but rather the color or the scent of the plant, will be why you're using it in herbal magic. For example, many cultures have the idea of the poppet or the voodoo doll, where you create an image of somebody or use a picture of somebody, and you use that in order to be able to do magic to them. You have never been in contact with the person, but because you have their image, you can use that. Another example of sympathetic magic is if you had a woman about to give birth, you could give her a wooden baby or doll, something to have and to hold, and to picture herself holding her own child and having a speedy and quick delivery. The idea that that child will be in her arms and healthy is then implanted into the universe. The third type of magic I'd like to discuss is the power of prayer. Very often, people will just light a candle and ask the gods to help in a situation. They don't have any specific magical workings. They may have a candle, they may have a color association with it, but they just may use a tea light, something that they have available right now, and call to the Lord and Lady and ask them for their help. This is also a form of magic. It is telling them what you wish and letting them know how badly you wish for it, and letting your desire guide them. Often, if people do these kind of things and light candles, they often give an offering as well to the gods, kind of like a payment for services rendered. This is common in ancient times, and it's common today, where we light incense. Perhaps we have a shrine to a particular deity in our home, and we light incense on their altar, we pour them a little glass of wine, we light our candle, and we ask for help. A person could also promise not to do something, like, "Dear Lord and Lady, if you'll just get me out of this situation, I promise not to drink again." So, anything goes, but the idea is that you're asking the gods for specific divine intervention on your behalf. We have those three forms of magic. Now, you can use them separately, but more often than not, you will use them as a combined force to help you achieve your will. The most simple form of magic would be a candle magic spell. For example, you are trying to find someone to love. You might get a red candle to fill you with passion and to bring you love and desire. Red is associated with passion and desire, so a red candle would be appropriate, and it would be sympathetic. Then you might hold the candle and make a physical connection to it. You could hold it close to you, you could sleep with it overnight, and maintain a connection with it. You could then get oils, which might also add sympathetic magic, but by holding it and making that physical contact, you start making contagious magic. You could write your name into the candle and say, "So-and-so will find love and happiness." Then you take the candle and you light it. And when you do so, you say a prayer to the gods, asking Aphrodite to bring a loved one to you, someone who you can love and be happy with, and that you can make them happy as well. So now that we know what magic is, I want to just delve back a little bit and talk about magic in history. Magic and ritual have existed since human prehistory. There is evidence in cave paintings depicting hunters dancing around images of several animals, and these pictures date back from between 10,000 and 28,000 BCE. There is also evidence that humans and even Neanderthals buried their dead with ritual type objects or things that would have meant a lot to them in life. So people have been performing ritualized behavior since before there was writing, indeed before even society existed. An early example of magic comes from ancient Greece. The Pella curse tablet, found in Pella in the capital of Macedonia in 1986, dates back to 375 to 350 BCE. The tablet is a magic spell or love charm written by a woman possibly named Dagina, whose lover, Dionysophon, is apparently about to marry Fatima. She invokes Macron and the demons to call Dionysophon to marry her instead of Fatima, and never to marry another woman unless she herself recovers and unrolls the scroll, and for her to grow old by the side of Dionysophon. So as you can see, magic has been around for a long time, and people have been doing things to find love for a long time. Again, I don't think that this love spell is particularly ethical, and it's not something that I would involve my gods in, but it's still interesting to see how magic has evolved over time. Next, I want to talk about superstitions, or folk magic. For example, in Ireland, it's common to write a person's name down and then strike a line through it, thus expressing your distaste and your wanting of the gods to punish them. In North Yorkshire, it is a custom when visiting a new baby for the first time that you put a small silver coin in its hand so that it will ensure prosperity. There is a tradition where grandmothers will whisper a secret name into the ear of their grandchild, giving them a name that no one knows, and if you cannot name a thing, you cannot work magic against it. There is a tradition that if your baby is experiencing colic, you should take it out and walk it around your house 3 times. It will protect from colic. Another tradition is that if your child is having teething troubles, you should rub the gold wedding ring of the mother against the gums of the child to help ease their pain. Of course, you can knock on wood 3 times to avoid bad luck. Another tradition is to run naked around your house 3 times on a full moon, and that night you will dream of your lover. There is the tradition of witch trees, where you stand in a tree that has several trunks growing out of a single point, and as you stand between the trunks, you put your hands on each trunk and you make 1 wish for every set. The more trunks you have, the better a witch tree you have, and you can make your wishes. Another tradition would be to douse your head in a running stream and have it carry away headaches. I've never tried this, but who knows, it might get rid of a migraine. Old traditions and old superstitions are wonderful, and they add a vibrancy and a life to the craft. Don't discount them. Old wives' tales, old superstitions can be absolutely an integral part of your craft and can really add some spice to your practice. However, if you're looking to be a little bit more academic, there are places that you can go, old grimoires that you can access. For example, the 3 books of occult philosophy by Henry Cornelius Agrippa. You could look up The Lesser Key of Solomon Goetia by Dr. L.W. de Lawrence. There are Kabbalistic texts that you can access, for example, the Sefer Yetzirah. Also, there are Hermetic texts, like the Emerald Tablet and the Corpus Hermeticum. These are examples of books that date from usually the Middle Ages, although some of them have mythological histories to them, which add to the spice. I now want to talk about a very serious subject. I want to talk about the ethics of magic. One of the things about magic is it allows you to do things in secret that nobody else would know anything about. And so, because there's no way for you to be caught, there's no way for you to be charged criminally, people might be tempted to do things that are wrong or illegal. The idea of the white versus black magic or the right hand versus the left hand path are usually obvious. As soon as you start wondering, is this thing wrong? Chances are it is. And you need to take some time and really think about what it is that you're doing. The idea of, and it harm none, do as you will, this is just as much for your benefit as it is for anybody who you would cast magic against. The idea of having the threefold law, the idea of putting out bad and having that bad come back to you, or negativity and having that negativity come back to you, is very interesting. I look at that a little bit differently than many other Wiccans. I look at the threefold law as if you are trying to influence things on a physical, mental, or spiritual level, or all three, then you're going to embrace whatever it is you're doing. Now, if I want to curse somebody, it is very important that I have my will, and my will be driven by my hatred of this person, so that passion, and I need to let that hatred fill me up. It has to become a part of me, almost tangible, and having that kind of negativity come right to the forefront and become such an important part of what you're doing, and then to have it affect you physically, mentally, spiritually, and then to call your gods and to bring them in and to involve them in a situation like that, well, that might change the way that you view your gods, or perhaps the way the gods view you. There are almost always ways that you can avoid negativity in your spells. We'll talk about some of them. Another thing I'd like to mention is be careful asking for justice. When you ask for justice, for someone to be punished for their crime, when you put out that kind of request, you will be judged as well. So if you're asking for the person to be judged karmically and to have their punishment come to them, very likely a punishment for anything you might have done to cause their behavior will also happen. So be careful asking for justice. You better be 100% blameless. Here are some guidelines for you to use when performing magic. The first thing, and I think one of the most obvious things, is don't use the craft for things that can be done mundanely. If it's just a matter of you getting the gumption and getting up and getting stuff done, don't use magic to try to achieve those ends. It's a lot easier for you to walk across the room and pick up that glass of water and drink it than cast a spell to have somebody somewhere, somehow, have that glass move to you. The next thing that I would recommend is you should not perform a magical spell or a magical act without doing some form of divination or meditation before you do so. We're just regular people, we're mortals, and we can't identify all of the consequences of our action. We know that when you take an act, anything can happen, that there are random events. And because of that, it's best if you take some time and you speak to, whether it be the gods, whether it be your guardian spirit, whether it be your ancestors, speak to the spirits who watch out for you and see if they can provide you guidance and advice on what it is that you're doing. The next thing, and I think that this should be obvious, but it's not always, don't use a symbol or an incantation that you don't understand. Don't find some Latin incantation that you don't really understand and that you haven't translated and use it in a spell just because it sounds cool. On the same regard, don't use a symbol from an ancient culture without doing research into what the symbol meant, not only to us now, but what did it mean to them in the past. Avoid using the craft to feed your own vanity or glory, or look how great I am, look what a powerful witch I am. That's not what the craft is for. It's for development and growth. If anything, you should try to be humble. When you deal with the spirits or with the gods, you want to tread lightly, and you want them to guide your path. If you're so busy saying how great you are, you won't listen to the advice that they give you. The next thing is, don't say you're going to cast a spell. Don't say you're going to use magic. Basically, don't say you're going to do something unless you're really going to follow through. It just dilutes the effectiveness of your words. When you speak, try to speak truth so that people know that they can count on you. The next thing, and one of the most important things, is you should avoid doing harm of any kind. And if you do decide to do harm, be prepared for the fact that you are now leaving yourself vulnerable to an attack of equal type. Any harm you do can be visited back upon you, and you won't have the proper defenses because you have already opened yourself up to that kind of energy. In the same regard, do not bind another. Binding another will also open you up to being likewise bound. So take that into very serious consideration, and if you are even considering doing something like that, spend a lot of time doing divination and speaking with the gods or with your ancestors or your guardian spirits, and talk to them about whether it's really a good idea. Thank you very much for taking this time with me to explore the ideas behind spellcraft and magic and how we can use them in our lives. Our next video will be on how to create your own spell and how to make it particularly effective. I look forward to seeing you all then. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section below. Please also, if you enjoyed this content, hit like and subscribe. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it and how much I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Thank you very much. Farewell and blessed be.